Orion never intended to become the center of a crowd, much less one composed of long-eared aliens blinking their bioluminescent ears at him as if judging his worth like a rare fruit. He had clocked in for what was supposed to be a peaceful shift, handling cargo manifests and recalibrating faulty scanner units. But peace didn't last long on Lithera Station, especially not when someone forgot to lock the manual override on an exoloader the size of a shuttle pod. The machine went rogue the moment he stepped near it, its limbs jerking like it had downloaded far too many dance tutorials. Orion reacted instinctively. He grabbed the nearest loose power conduit, yelled something that sounded heroic in his head but was probably nonsense, and leapt forward. The ensuing struggle resembled less a battle and more an awkward wrestling match between a human man and a very confused robot. Somehow, he suspected sheer luck. The exoloader powered down with a sputtering whine, leaving Orion standing triumphantly with a cable in his hands and absolutely no idea how he'd survived. The crowd exploded into chatter, and he could swear he heard someone ask if humans always fought machines barehanded for fun. He opened his mouth to clarify that no, he strongly preferred machines to remain non-aggressive and preferably stationary. But before he could say anything, his attention snagged on someone standing at the edge of the group. She was tall, graceful, her skin carrying a faint shimmer like starlight under glass. But it was her ears that caught him, long, elegant, tapering like sculpted arcs, glowing with a soft violet light that pulsed every time she blinked. And she blinked a lot as she stared at him. He tried to look normal, which was difficult since normal people didn't nearly get flattened by machinery 10 seconds prior. Hi, he offered, dusting power conduit residue from his sleeves. Not my usual morning workout. Her ears glowed brighter, and she opened her mouth as if to speak, closed it, then opened it again. Your combat display was impressive, she finally said. Her voice carried a lilting tone, somewhere between admiration and someone trying very hard not to squeal. You subdued the unit with remarkable strength. Oh, that. Orion laughed nervously. Pretty sure it tripped. Happens to the best of us. You should see me trip. Much more impressive. A ripple of delighted murmurs spread through the watching Litherans. The woman's ears shimmered brighter still, and she lifted a hand to hide what he suspected might be embarrassment. Or laughter. Or both. He wasn't sure how Litheran facial expressions worked yet. He was still at the stage of learning that glowing ears meant excitement, confusion, or possibly imminent proposals. He hoped it wasn't the last one. Not that she wasn't stunning, she absolutely was, but he wasn't emotionally prepared for any alien traditions that involved ceremonial bonding or surprise offspring. Station security finally arrived, fashionably late as usual, and the crowd dispersed with disappointed murmurs. Orion tried to slip away as well, but the long-eared woman drifted after him like a quiet comet following a gravitational pull. He cleared his throat. So, did you need something? Aside from witnessing my near-death acrobatics. She hesitated, ears flickering like a faulty lantern. I only wish to ensure you were unharmed. Humans are softer than we are. That's fair, he said. We are famously squishy. Her lips curved into a smile, small, warm, and unexpectedly disarming. I am Kalyra, she said, daughter of the Litheran Observatory Council. Orion froze mid-step. Council. That word tended to mean important. The last time he talked to anyone with a title that high, he accidentally insulted their grandmother by confusing her with a sculpture. Great to meet you, he managed, though it came out several decibels higher than intended. I'm Orion. No titles, no political influence, just a guy who files things. Kalyra tilted her head, her ears shifting into a gleam of curiosity. You underestimate yourself. No, trust me, I've taken personality assessments. Very average results across the board. She laughed, an elegant, musical sound that made his brain forget how basic walking worked for a moment. She studied him with a look that was far too intense for someone he had known for approximately 3 minutes. Her ears glowed again, brighter this time, and she seemed to catch herself, forcing the light to dim. I should return to my duties, she murmured, though she didn't move. Right, he said, and I should go, file something. They parted reluctantly, though Orion wasn't sure why. As he walked away, he heard murmurs behind him, soft, excited whispers in the Litheran dialect. He caught only a few words, but one phrase was unmistakable. The human she wants, He stopped dead, turned, and found Kelaira staring at him from a distance, her long ears glowing like a secret she had almost confessed. Orion swallowed hard. "Great," he muttered to himself. "First day without coffee, and I've already accidentally impressed an alien noblewoman. My mother would be so proud." Orion's face had appeared on the station's public holofeeds exactly once before, the time he tripped over his own toolbox and set off an automatic evacuation alert. Somehow, that incident had earned him far less attention than stopping a rogue exoloader. Now every corridor he walked through came with whispers, curious glances, and at least 2 Litherans who pretended not to stare while very obviously staring. Even the cleaning drones paused a beat too long when he passed, which offended him slightly. Machines shouldn't have opinions. The engineers were the worst. They kept circling the disabled exoloader, running diagnostics and muttering about how no human should have been able to wrestle with a machine whose grip strength could pulverize steel. Orion tried explaining, repeatedly, that he did not wrestle it so much as cling to it like a terrified koala. But the story had already evolved beyond his control. According to one rumor, he had yelled a battle cry so powerful it disrupted the loader's circuits. Another claimed he'd ripped out the power core with his teeth. Orion wondered how people could believe such things, but then he remembered he once believed instant noodles were nutritious, so he wasn't one to judge. Kelaira, however, was nowhere to be seen for 2 whole days, which was strange. He wasn't proud of noticing, but he definitely noticed. Whenever he rounded a corner, he half expected her to be there pretending she had just happened upon him. And whenever he didn't see her, the absence sat oddly in his chest, like he'd misplaced something important. On the 3rd day, he spotted her at last, standing near the observation deck, her long ears glowing faintly as she watched starlight ripple across the glass. Orion approached carefully, rehearsing something cool and casual in his mind, something like, "Hey." Unfortunately, it came out more like, I mean, hi, sorry, foot caught on nothing." Her ears brightened in amusement. "It is good to see you," she said softly. "You too," he replied, managing not to trip, which felt like a significant personal victory. "You've been busy." Her expression flickered. "The council requested my presence, repeatedly. They are concerned." "Concerned about?" Her ears dimmed with embarrassment. "About us." Orion blinked. "Us? There's an us? No one told me there was an us. I should be informed if I'm part of an us." Her lips curved. "Not an official us. A potential one." Orion made a sound that could best be described as a squeak. "Oh." Kelaira lifted her hand and flicked her ear gently, which he had learned was a Litharan gesture of nervous honesty. "Our customs were not meant to involve humans. The council fears misunderstandings, or alliances, or accidental engagements. I suspect they are unsure which frightens them more." "I can guarantee all of those frighten me," he said. "Especially accidental engagements. I once accidentally subscribed to a laundry detergent service. I am not ready for marriage paperwork." Her laugh chimed like glass bells. "I told them there is nothing inappropriate between us. They responded by listing 73 cultural complications that could arise if there were." 73? He groaned. "That is too many complications. Humans can barely handle 2. A pair of passing Litharans slowed to stare at him, whispering behind their hands. Kelaira sighed. "The rumors about you have grown exaggerated. Please tell me no one thinks I'm part machine." "They think you are part many things," she admitted gently. "A war spirit, a metal-born. One citizen claimed you're the reincarnation of an ancient asteroid deity." Orion rubbed his face. "Brilliant. I'm a human who can't even win an arm-wrestling match against my coffee maker, but the station thinks I'm a cosmic warrior." Kelaira stepped closer, not too close, but close enough he could see the faint silver flecks in her eyes. "I know the truth. I saw your fear, your uncertainty, your courage. That is worth more than myth." For several seconds he forgot how lungs worked. Kelaira. Her ears glowed so brightly, she looked like she was wearing halo-shaped neon signs. She quickly turned away, pretending to adjust the controls on a nearby console. "I apologize, that was bold." No, he said quickly. "I just wasn't expecting that." He wasn't sure what to do with the warmth blooming in his chest. He definitely wasn't sure what to do when Kelaira's ears glowed even brighter at his tone, so strongly, in fact, that a passing technician stopped and stared before stumbling into a wall. Kelaira lowered her voice. "The council wishes me to cease speaking with you. They fear I am becoming attached." "And are you?" he asked before his brain could stop him. Her ears lit up like twin supernovas. I see, Orion said weakly. She stepped back, suddenly flustered. I should not keep you. If the council sees us together, they may attempt to intervene. They already believe humans are unpredictable. They fear you may create chaos. Me, no, Orion said, raising his hands. I only cause chaos by accident. Before she could respond, a sudden tremor shook the deck. Both turned in alarm as a maintenance drone shot past at dangerous speed, spinning wildly. A metallic voice shrieked, unscheduled panic mode activated. Kalyra stared. What is that? Orion sighed. That is chaos, and I assure you I did not cause it, probably. As alarms flickered and the drone ricocheted down the hall, Kalyra covered her mouth, shoulders shaking with laughter. Orion groaned and jogged after the rogue machine. Of course this would happen while he was trying to look impressive. Of course. Behind him, Kalyra watched with glowing ears and a smile she couldn't hide, whispering words he couldn't hear. Words that made her heart race faster than any council warning ever could. Orion didn't realize he had been invited to something monumental until a ceremonial robe was shoved into his arms and 3 Litherans began attempting to drape it over him like he was a particularly fussy lamp. The robe hung unevenly, one sleeve halfway down to his knees, the other stuck behind his shoulder. He had asked if there was a mirror he could use. They told him mirrors were unnecessary because confidence creates symmetry. Orion found that deeply unconvincing. Kalyra finally appeared, breathless from hurrying, her long ears glowing in nervous pulses. You came, she said softly, as though she hadn't spent the last week practically orbiting him like a dedicated moon. I did, he replied, trying not to choke on a bead from the robe's collar. Though I think I may be wearing this upside down. Her ears flickered in amusement, but then dimmed. The council will be here soon. They intend to judge my intentions. And yours. Judge, like legally, culturally, emotionally, academically. His voice rose with each word. Because if it's academically, I'm doomed. I once failed a history test about my own planet. She laughed, but it was a nervous, fragile sound. This is the Claiming Festival. Litherans present their chosen partners before the assembly. It is tradition, but you are human, and that complicates everything. Orion stared. Kalyra, you invited me to your species, equivalent of a public relationship declaration ceremony. Yes, she said, and I realize now I should have explained that earlier. Oh, definitely, he said, hands flying up. This feels like something that deserves a heads up, maybe a brochure. But as the crowd gathered, he noticed something changing inside himself. A week ago, he would have run screaming from this kind of attention. Now he found himself standing a little straighter beneath the shimmering lights of the great hall. Maybe it was the adrenaline, or the robe slowly cutting off circulation to his left arm. Or maybe it was Kalyra, her trust, her belief that he was worth the risk. The council arrived in a dramatic sweep of robes, all of them wearing expressions that suggested they were ready to witness either a diplomatic triumph or a complete societal meltdown. The lead counselor stepped forward. Kalyra, daughter of the observatory, state your purpose. Kalyra inhaled, her ears lifting like twin antennae catching courage. I wish to declare my interest in the human Orion. The hall erupted in scandalized murmurs. Several Litherans gasped so hard Orion wondered if they needed medical attention. A few pointed at him as though he might suddenly sprout wings or explode in prophecy. The counselor's voice trembled with outrage. A human? Their biology is volatile, their emotions are uncontrollable, their customs unpredictable. Hey, Orion interrupted before he could stop himself. I'll admit our customs are weird, but we're not that unpredictable. Well, some of us. Not me, usually. The hall turned to stare at him. Kalyra's ears flared bright with horror. But Orion kept talking, because if he stopped now, he might faint. Look, I'm not a warrior. I'm not a deity. I'm not made of metal. I'm just a guy who tries his best and sometimes ends up fighting machinery by accident. And yeah, I didn't know what this festival was about. But I do know Kalyra isn't someone I want to walk away from. Kalyra blinked rapidly, her ears glowing so brightly she could have powered the station. He took a breath that felt like stepping off a cliff. She's brilliant and strong and kind, and she laughs at my bad jokes. She makes me braver than I am, so if your concern is that humans aren't predictable, well, maybe predictability is overrated. Silence fell across the hall like a dropped curtain. One of the older counselors leaned in to whisper to another, "He speaks with honesty and unfortunate humor." Another replied, "Perhaps that is part of his species' charm." After a long, agonizing pause, the lead counselor raised her hand. "If this bond is truly chosen by both, then it is not our place to deny it. But we must ensure it does not threaten our traditions." Kelaira stepped closer to Orion. "Traditions adapt," she said firmly. The council deliberated for several tense minutes before finally declaring, "We will allow this partnership to proceed under observation." Orion blinked. "Observation?" Kelaira whispered, "They mean they will watch us." "Fantastic," he muttered. "Nothing says romance like supervised dating." But Kelaira laughed, truly laughed, and took his hand in hers. Her ears glowed in soft, rhythmic pulses, no longer nervous but warm. Proud. As the crowd slowly relaxed, Orion felt something shift inside him. He wasn't just the confused human who stumbled into trouble anymore. He had faced a room full of aliens judging his worth and hadn't melted into a puddle of embarrassment. He had stood beside Kelaira, not hiding behind humor, but using it to steady himself. For the first time since arriving on Lithara Station, he felt anchored. Later, when the crowds dispersed and the hall returned to quiet, Kelaira squeezed his hand gently. "You were brave," she whispered. "Not really," he said. "I was terrified." "Bravery," she said, "is doing the terrifying thing anyway." He looked at her luminescent ears, at the way they glowed like twin guide lights in the dim hall, and he realized something undeniable. "I'm glad I met you," he said softly. Her smile warmed the space between them. "I wished you were mine long before I ever said it." Orion laughed, nervous but hopeful. "Well, I guess now we'll find out what that means." Together they stepped out of the ceremonial hall, into the bustling, unpredictable world of Lithara Station. Partners not by accident or rumor, but by choice, and ready to navigate whatever cosmic chaos came next. This time, Orion knew he wouldn't face it alone.